What's going on, YouTube? So I did not live stream this morning, and a lot of that so I was out late on. I don't want to create excuses. I was just didn't get up early. I'm kind of disappointed in myself, but kind of broke the streak where I was getting up early, and you know, it's upsetting, but you know, that's beside the point. Point is, I forgot to. I didn't forget. I just didn't upload my stream, but now I'll be uploading my watch list for tomorrow and be getting up early tomorrow morning for that. So yeah, let's get going. I'm not going to focus on the past. So I actually already did my analysis, so I'm going to be just talking about the tickers that I'm looking at for tomorrow. One being BMMJ. So BMMJ is a huge momentum stock. As you can see, it's an OTC, and it's had very strong volume over the past month and a half. So the main thing I'm looking for is, I mean, I think that it can certainly keep going, and yeah, I mean, the top wick here from some of these past high volume. So okay, so right away, looking at on the bottom here, the maximum chart, we can see that from some of the higher volume days in the past, around 2018, it topped out around $2, and it topped out around 180-ish, and also 170-ish. So I notice how here, when it pulled back to looking at the 180-day chart up above, and today when it pulled back to about 157, it had some buying volume come right in. So I'm looking at that 157 level in a long-term chart. So looking at 157, as sort of like a pass key resistance when it had higher volume. If you'll see here, around 157, where my cursor and my trend lines are, you can see around 157, it's topped out there a couple times on higher volume, which obviously the higher volume that it has from those resistance levels, and you get a clear bounce there, that's usually an indication that that's a strong level of support, because you know, old resistance levels become new support levels. So with that in mind, I would probably wouldn't mind buying here in even the 150s and risking off of that resistance level, even though there is some heavier volume traded around the 180s and even up to the 3s. It's shown the potential. It's a former runner to get up to the 3s. And also, you know, heavy selling volume. Something else to keep in mind is heavy selling volume starting from around 220 is kicked in, is just exists, you know, in that region. So I'll be keeping an eye out on that. But the main reason why I feel comfortable still playing this is because if you'll look at the volume on those days, it was, I mean, from when it topped out, which relatively, I mean, the volume on these days was significantly higher than a majority of other days leading. So you'll see here the volume on these days was slightly higher, and then it sort of faded in February and March, picked back up again in April. But you know, from about March to October, that range is sort of irrelevant because it's not in the price. The volume is irrelevant from March to October because it's not in the price range that we're looking at right now. So looking at the price range now, like I said, with these, so you identify the resistance levels which form newer support levels, and you can see that the volume is clearly significantly higher currently with today BMMJ experienced 900,000 shares traded, and over the past month and a half, it's been trading pretty consistently around 300 to 400k shares on average, which is significantly higher than even in the past. So I mean, like, I will give added weight in this situation to the volume, the fact that it has a lot of momentum, the fact that it's an OTC breakout. I mean, there's really not a whole lot of so it is a weed stock too, which has momentum. So, and they're getting into consumer, looks like they're getting into, they've been into like sort of edibles as well, which is a pretty profitable market, pretty profitable niche. So all of those things I'm keeping in mind, and I'm probably going to be risking. So this is one that I really wouldn't mind pulling the trigger on, because even though it's up a lot, it could come crashing down, but it just has a lot of momentum on heavy volume. So I might want to buy in the morning and just sort of try to predict, just ride it out and see that if it can continue that uptrend. It's basically had no pullbacks until slightly above the $1 region. So yeah, I'll be risking off. I'll probably, this is one of the better plays I'm identifying. I would probably feel safe risking off of around the 157 region with, around 15 cent. So that's about a 15-cent risk for a potential rip here, even up into the 2s or 250s. But when I'm thinking about this is really like a good swing trade, and it's been a good swing trade since it broke around 80 cents. I just don't like going after really low price stocks, but it's starting to get into that price that I like, and that's just personal preference on why I trade it. So yeah, the volume, risking off that level around the 160s, being patient, and definitely something I'm going to keep an eye out on. So that'll be it for BMMJ. And then MDCL was another one. Yeah, so with MDCL, you can see here I have my alert set for 320. You can see the higher relative volume power move it had just today, or not necessarily power move, but it had a pretty good morning spike. Not even spike, but morning rally, I would say. It's been on an ascending uptrend for the past 3 to 4 months. It's been on an ascending uptrend. So with this, I'm sort of waiting for it to break 320, and then I would risk off of that because there's that high volume resistance level around the 323, 323, 322-ish. So I would have to break that level in order for me to want to enter it, because otherwise I'm just buying it off of its highs. But I do like the higher relative volume. It's been seeing, just today it received around 400k shares traded. So, and I also see the resistance here around 320-ish as well. So that's why I'm really looking at that 320 level, as in if it breaks, it could keep going. I understand that there's some more shares traded around from 2017. You have long-term bag holders from there, but the volume is a little bit higher. I think it's a pretty clear breakout that people would feel comfortable attacking. So we'll have probably quite a few eyes on it. Medicine Man Technologies. So this is another CBD stock. Looks like they have an upcoming conference that they're going to be participating in. Well, when is that? April 18th. Okay, so that's in 2 to 3 days. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to be watching this because of that. So MDCL, I have a feeling it could keep its momentum going, and if it breaks 320, especially before the conference, it could keep going to higher threes, maybe even the fours. As it's shown in the past, it can get up to the fives. So definitely in the volume picking up. I like this stock. So yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye out on this for a break above that 320-ish level, and then risk off of that. So MDCL and then CFMS. So CFMS, the reason, let's see, where are my alerts on this? CFMS, get the pull back to $2. Yeah, I'm not sure about this alert. So CFMS, I probably wouldn't attack unless it pulls back to around $2 region. So I'm not even sure why I had that on my watch list, to be honest, because I wouldn't want to attack unless it comes down pretty hard from 260s, because there's 5 million shares that have sold off in that region over the past month. So I wouldn't attack it here. I would wait for it to get to its support level around $2 and then confirm an uptrend. But I'm not going to be chasing it up here in the 260s. It's just not sufficient risk reward. But ATAI is definitely still in play, in my opinion. It was in play this morning as well, and this is actually the one I was kind of bummed out on. I had gone over it in my watch list, but I didn't really pay attention to some of the key resistance levels on it. So I'll show you what I mean here. I actually cropped this chart and drew a little on it. So you'll see here that after its initial run from $1 to about $4, right? Yeah, $4.50. It pulled back and it had a sell-off for 2 to 3 days. But when it opened this morning, so you'll notice Monday when or Tuesday when it had that run up from pretty much over 100%, which is insane. It's okay. So a couple things here. I love this setup. Love it, love it, love it. Number one, because there's volatility. Number two, because over the course of its history, there hasn't been a lot of volume relative to today, or over the past week and a half. So when you look at the unusual volume, it's a very bullish signal. It makes the patterns a lot more predictable because you don't have this neutralization going on. It's easier to identify. It's sort of a cleaner chart what's really going on. And you look at this period of no activity for the longest time, and then all of a sudden it suddenly moves, and that's a bullish signal, because this is going to catch people off guard, and this is when people are going to look to get in on it. And I didn't identify that, but it's good to know that now for the future, that when I see inactive charts over the long term, that they can, when they show some initial momentum, you know, during pre-market, that it can really keep going. And so yeah, like with ATAI, you could have saw, I mean, I already talked about this, but it showed some considerable momentum in the $1 to 120 region pre-market, even 140s. And that's when, you know, if you notice that it was relatively inactive, it was low float, it was a former runner, it had unusual volume kicking in pre-market around 88,000 compared to its past. Boom, that's when you attack, and then that's when you get the 100% power move. Now, you notice when it sells off to about half of its spike, around 60%, 50%, and it holds. So you can attack there. And that's another 50%. And then you notice that it's a gap fill. So it had a morning spike, sold off, held half its highs, closed at its high day. So you could have bought into the close, and then you could, if you were patient enough, you could have sold the next day for another, you know, 30, 40, 50%. And yeah, that's, you know, that's the beauty of this play, is like there's so many different ways you could have played it when it sold off and it held around the 160s, 170s. Let me pull up the yearly chart. It held around, probably around, yeah, 160, 170s. Yeah, I mean, the basic gist of it is that it held half its highs after this massive run. So when it holds half of its highs, that's a bullish signal. When it breaks half of the spike, that's a bearish signal. And it held and it filled its gap, so you could have bought into the close. You could also bought Wednesday when it broke its high a day from the pre-market, and that was a really good opportunity, another 20 to 30%. And then you could have even bought, so knowing this, you can see that it used this level of support around 250-ish prior to its gap fill close from Tuesday. So then it used that resistance and that sort of support level after hours as support again midday Wednesday. And this is because this was a higher volume resistance, which gives it a higher likelihood when there's higher relative volume on that resistance level, and it breaks it and then it comes down, and then there's still high relative volume. There's a higher chance that it's going to bounce at this level because there's higher volume from the past day when it was a resistance level. So it gives it a greater likelihood that that resistance level will become a new support level, as it did. And so you could have played this in multiple ways. You could even, like as I already said, and that's from last week. Now, moving on to this week, so then you'll notice, or even from last week, you'll notice it faded from its highs around 450, right? So it faded, and then it started consolidating after hours on Monday and around the resistance level from Tuesday, and it was holding that level really well, headed into the open. So you could have bought near the open, risking off of this high volume past resistance, which you're, quote unquote, guessing is going to be the new support level, which it served as a support level the day after, this morning. So if you bought with that, around even 6 a.m. So yeah, I mean, if you bought around 6:15-ish pre-market, and it went up about another 20% that day or today, and then it's sort of fading. So there was so many different ways to play this already, and I know that's looking at it in hindsight, but the bottom line with ATAI is paying attention to periods of inactivity in the past, and what's the volume now, what's the unusual volume, the news. There was news associated with it. I don't really care about the news. The news doesn't even really matter, to be honest. All that matters is that there was news and it created higher volume. The reaction matters more than the news itself. So the only news that you should really take legitimate is big time contracts, media appearances and earnings winners. Those are the most, and also sector momentum, but that's not even news. That's just sort of a catalyst, but you can see that it held this level well, and it had another run to the fours when it held this level well previously, and buying around that $3 region, yeah, I mean, given its volatility, you're risking a little bit, but it showed that it could get a little uptrend going for around 20 to 25%. And so now, going into tomorrow, I'm going to be looking for it to sell off and hold around, hopefully, ideally after hours, or even tomorrow during market hours. It's going to hold 250-ish to 60, and then from there attack there, risking off of 240, 250, hoping that it could get another push up into the 320s, 330s, 350s. So I'll be watching this. Hopefully it gets into that range, the 260 range, where I feel like I have a really appropriate risk. I'm not going to chase it here in the middle around 320. That just wouldn't be a good play. But yeah, so, and I understand that it's up pretty high, but 260 is a key level here, and you'll even see that to even give more evidence for this potential bounce, you could see where it topped out and from its past run, which just happened to be right around 260. Yeah, you'll see on the bottom here from September, early September, the top of the candlesticks 260, which is where shorts risk. They also risk off the top wicks. It ran to the 340s too. So now this could come down. I'm not saying, oh, this is the best play in the world, but I am saying it's a pretty solid play given the past volume resistance levels and the assumption that becomes a new support, and the assumption and the evidence that it's bounced at that level over the past week. And so it might get another bounce there again. No guarantees. I just think that it's something I see potential in. So I love ATAI. CFMS already went over. Checking on MBRV and some of the FDA plays. So MBRV, obviously waiting for it to sell off into the 240s, and then I would attack. But yeah, so I'm just a little more patient with that one. And it does have upcoming data release coming up in a month to a couple months. So I'll be waiting on it to form that channel, you know, and ideally up to the data release. It's, you know, you see the past support here over the past year, past about year and a half. It's actually had support around 230, 240 before. So, you know, sells off and then 240 could potentially bounce. So I'm really excited and happy about this play. I will be really happy if it sells off to the 240s. It could even form a higher low, but I wouldn't attack now because it's just performing. As you'll see over the past week, it's just been putting in lower lows and lower highs, a descending downtrend. Not something I'm interested in being bullish until it gets to that support level, until it starts reversing its pattern. ACHV, so ACHV is another one where I'm waiting for it to pull back to slightly below the threes, because yeah, around 280s, the 280s, and then hopefully get a bounce there. So, and then OVID, and it's just kind of the same thing, like forms a channel. And also with ACHV, it's been pretty choppy and there's a lot of sideways consolidation that occurs. So yeah, but OVID is very illiquid and I do not see anything really going on with it, besides the fact that it did get a bounce around the 170s up into about 180s, which was a quick 5% gain if you use that support level from Wednesday, 3 weeks, so about 2 3/4, around, you know, 17-18 days ago, almost 3 weeks ago. You see that key support level around, that was actually Tuesday, and it got a bounce there today, you'll see, which was about 5 to 7%. So, you know, given its upcoming data release, it was a pretty good bounce, and you know, you could have risked off 170-ish. It did temporarily go beneath that level to the 160s though, so, you know, in hindsight it's easier than actually done, but yeah, I mean, it's just kind of tough to like play this. Maybe if it gets down to the 170s again, I would play it, or even like, yeah, 170s, I would play it. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously not like the best play. There's not a ton of range. There's a lot of like days where it doesn't really move a lot, so OVID is something I'll avoid probably. So, and then I didn't unless it gets into the 170s, you know, low 170s, maybe I'll consider it. But then last point before I sign off here, I didn't actually I'm not going to go through any past scans because I didn't so yesterday I didn't really find anything when I was scanning, that any setup that I really wanted to save and keep looking at. And over the past days too, I kind of already went through some past scans and didn't really see potential in them. So I'm not going to work harder than I need to. You know, I think that that's kind of a problem, is like thinking, oh, I need to work for money. And that's just not the way the market works. You have to be patient. You have to work appropriately, not work smarter, not harder. And hopefully if it pulls back to the 170s with OVID, there's some potential there. I'm just going to be patient, try to get some sleep and actually get up tomorrow. But thank you for watching if you did. That will be it for today. And BMMJ, ATAI are definitely two of my favorite setups headed into tomorrow. So we will see what happens. Hope you guys have a great night. All right, bye.